This is my UIM level 3 glass making crafting guide. And in this guide, I'm going to set out to provide two methods that you can utilize to get crafting XP on your UIM level 3. There are a variety of different ways and methods you can do it. I still think that this is probably one of the best. And I'm going to cover everything, even if I'm not doing everything, and just a full route of this method. So it's a little bit more comprehensive than some guides, but I think that it'll be helpful. So first and foremost, if you want to get crafting, there are a couple of different ways you can do it on a UIM level 3. Obviously, it's easier if you have magic in the Lunar Spellbook because you can make glass with a spell, and you'll see guides for that, but you won't really see guides for this. The second thing is to notice that you can do shooting stars, and shooting stars will give you what you need to then buy packs of gems, and those gems are going to be noted. So you can actually do a lot of mining XP via shooting stars AFK and then get decent crafting levels. It's really fun to train that in Remington with files because you can unnote and then sell to the general store there, though obviously after you get to a certain point you're not really getting your money's worth from the gems you're selling, but at the end of the day it's an easy way to train crafting if you want to AFK to far beyond 99 mining. Now, the other thing to mention is you probably should get at least 77 crafting from doing rune crafting. Guardians of the Rift and also blood runes are going to be great for getting around 77 crafting by default. So you don't really need to start off doing really low level crafting because even Guardians of the Rift doesn't have a super high crafting level or anything like that required. And even doing bloods or souls only requires, I believe, 38 crafting. So those are a couple of the different methods you can do. But at the end of the day, if you're going to make glass, what it comes down to is where you're going to do it and what amount of giant seaweed are you going to do per. Now, you may not actually want to farm all the giant seaweed and the buckets of sand. There is a decent method if you go to Varlamore, and I'll link a video in the description that'll show this method for proper credit due. And there is also here near the Fortis Gothon, I guess, is a furnace, and there is a charter ship over here, so you can run back and forth between that furnace, but you are going to have to hop worlds doing that. So that is a decent thing you can do since we don't have Ghost Ahoy as level 3 UIM if you don't have the stocked materials. However, if you have the stock materials, well, in that case, it makes it a lot more enjoyable to simply get the giant seaweed while doing birdhouse and farm runs, while doing Herbiboar, and the spores are pretty easy to get. I almost always got more spores every single time I was there. And at the end of the day, you can put those both in the looting bag, and the buckets of sand you can get while using expert mining gloves, getting some mining levels via mining sandstone just a little bit northeast of Temperos, and you can actually go through the east exit of Temperos into the desert and just travel up north. You can get hit by a scorpion sometimes, but it's pretty easy to get there. You can also buy basically noted buckets really easily, and he can store 25k at a time. So getting about 105k or whatever you need to get the calculations. I'll put the calculator in the description. You can calculate how much giant seaweed and buckets of sand you'll need for 99 crafting. Now, obviously, the lower crafting level is going to be lantern lens, and that's kind of the only thing that's annoying with glass is that it's a big gap between 49 with the Bullseye lantern lens and at 87, which is the Dorg light orb. So obviously, you could do pretty much everything and get decently close to 87 crafting, maybe even do some extra stars and post mining XP, and get to 87 and then do this method. That would probably be the most maximum efficient way to do this. I personally wanted to do some crafting, so I'm utilizing my resources that I have, and I did my calculations based on making Bullseye lantern lens to 87 and then making orbs from 87 to 99. Now the XP rates for this are going to vary anywhere from 45k to about 62k sweaty via the orbs. So it's a pretty solid method, and honestly, though it's not AFK and does require an alt, it's pretty chill. There is a way to do this without an alt, but it's going to require you to sacrifice XP, obviously, and that's going to be in Runelight if you're doing mobile for some reason, and that's going to be the TzHaar fight pit. So in the TzHaar fight pit, I'll include a clip here, and you can see that it is about 34 tiles from the chest all the way to that particular furnace. And along the way, though, you don't actually need a fire. You can use the giant seaweed on this little vent, essentially. The problem with that, though, is anytime you do drop an extra craft and have to go back, you're going to have to run a little bit back to the vent just to pick it up, get it, and then go back to the furnace. Not to mention it's about 34 tiles or 35 tiles from chest to furnace, which is pretty far in comparison to this one, which is about 14 or 15 tiles. I can't remember. So the other thing is you could do this at Edgevill, but the problem is Edgevill is going to have a lot more people dropping a lot of random items, and there is a part of this method that makes it more enjoyable on RuneLite via the standard RuneLite plugin stuff that you get and have had for a long time. So since I am here and I'm up in the mount, I have my alt in the left-hand corner. Maybe you can see standing on this tile to the right of the tile that I have marked on my UIM level 3. But what's really important with this method is because you're lighting a fire and using items and dropping items and picking up items, is you're going to want to have things set up really well. So first and foremost, you want to right-click, shift, and set up your lantern lenses to be a one-click drop with the swath left click. And then you're also going to want to make sure that you can't do that with the giant seaweed, like that's just use, and that also buckets is set to drop. So if I drop all these buckets and the lantern lens for 18, the start will always be that you'll have 3 giant seaweed and you'll have 18 buckets of sand along with some remnant leftovers, 4 specifically right there. Now, I also have entity hider on, so you cannot see my alt over here. But the reason why we do that is you'll notice that actually I can't take and pick up lantern lenses or buckets because I don't want to click and pick up things that I did drop that I want to pick back up in the middle of a giant menu item list of things that I don't want. So in order to actually make it so that you can't take and pick up anything that you drop in terms of lantern lens or buckets, there's 2 things you need to have turned on. First, you need to have custom menu swaps. Custom menu swaps you need to put on take lantern lens and take bucket. This means that you can't put it as the asterisk because then you wouldn't even be able to drop it within your own inventory. So basically, you'll be able to not take it and do everything else that you want to do. So you'll want to have that custom. The second thing is in the ground items plugin section, you're going to want on hidden items. You're going to want both ashes, or all 3, ashes, bucket, and trying to think of what else, lantern lens. So that way you can't see anything or click anything and pick them up. Once you have those enabled, you should be good to go. There is a little bit of a trick that might make it hard to set up and you're going to be sitting there debugging it. That is that in the menu swap stuff, there is a way to collapse ground items, and that'll show the item as a number. So it'll say lantern lens times 6. And so if I actually turn that on, you'll notice that I can actually take now again because it's a numbered version and the plugin doesn't know what to do. So make sure that that is turned off. That being said, the next point is how are you going to actually set up your camera? Because that's usually a factor. There isn't really a perfect way to set it up. Personally, I prefer to be slightly zoomed out and use the escape key to hide and show my screen whenever I'm running between the bank chest and over here. And obviously it's when I'm running to the bank chest that I press escape, click on the bank chest, press escape again, and then start glass blowing on the way to it. So that's why I think this is the best direction. I don't know, it's just the way that I like to do it. You can obviously experiment. Now the alt is sitting over there, and since entity hider is on, I can't see it at all. And what I'm going to do is run and click on that tile. And while I'm running over there, my alt is going to make 1 fire. Now with that 1 fire, I'm going to drop these extra lanterns, and then I'm going to shift drop 1 full craft, which is 1 giant seaweed and 6 buckets of sand. I'm going to make 12 soda ash. Make sure these can't be 1-click drop, and then I'm going to click and make all 12 molten glass. Now the fire, because I'm doing 3 crafts of giant seaweed at once, is going to run out after the 3rd one, so you're always going to have to run back after a full inventory of lighting fires on the alt, but it's really not that bad. The next thing I'm going to do is drop the top 6 buckets, and I'm going to pick up all the buckets of sand and the giant seaweed, and because of the plug-in stuff, I don't have to worry about almost anything. Next, I'm going to drop the empty buckets of sand, and I'm going to use this on the fire, ready to go to make the final amount. Here's where I can zoom out and get ready, move back and click back to that tile and click the tinderbox. Then I can click on this, and I'm just going to click 7 for now, but obviously you could, if you wanted to, make sure you rebind the number so it's easier to your escape key with your fingers. And that's pretty much it. Now that fire is obviously going to burn out and become ash, and that's why you also want that hidden, so you can't take that. But I don't have to take one on because I never click on that spot and drop anything on there. I always do it on the other one. So each is about 55 XP to 75 XP, I believe, for the orbs. So total it's 75 to, I think, 95 XP per, depending on what you do. The last thing is getting set up for the next part. You don't want to just note while you have a giant seaweed down here. So usually pull down 1, or you could do something like this, which is kind of like an X, and then drop 2, press 1, drop all 18 slots for the next bucket of sand, and run back. And that's how you repeat the method. So I hope that this was helpful for you. I think that it's a weird setup that you have to deal with, and I think that you'll get used to it at first. It's kind of strange, but after some time, it's kind of mindless, and it is decent crafting XP for our builds compared to a lot of other things. Plus, it's not a lot of moving the camera and trying to click, a bunch of specific areas. You could even use screen markers if you really wanted to. And there's some time in between that's semi-relaxing when you're doing the craft, so I think overall it's a very relaxing skill to train, and some people really don't like it, but I don't know. You might make some mistakes like that where you accidentally click into it, but at the end of the day, it's not even really a big deal. Well, this has been my guide on UIM glassblowing. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good one. See you in the next one. Peace.